Welcome, everyone, and welcome to the show. Sandra and I welcome you all to the show, and we also have our guest host, John McClain. How you doing, John?
Yeah, pleasure to be here, as always.
And like always, for the last couple of weeks, we've been getting John to update us where he's at on his home searching process. I call it
the
not
whole
process.
journey, the home processing journey.
So, John, tell us where you're at. Tell us where you are at that point today.
Yeah, surprisingly enough, it's like I feel like I'm on a rocket ship, being represented by Indie Realty and by you guys, because we just started having this conversation on the air.
Yeah, we did
2 weeks ago, where I was just like, yeah, me and my wife are considering, we're considering to start looking in October. What is you guys' thoughts on, whether we should start looking now or then? Your advice, Jonathan Spur with Inspired Life Mortgage. You guys both kind of gave us the same advice that, what better time than now? Because the idea of, granted, me and my wife, we own our current home, so
right.
we were not renters, but the idea that, every day that goes by, that's just, money that's going somewhere else that could go to that house. And, where ourselves and I think a lot of people out there that are armchair real estate speculators were thinking that, by December, January, the market will go down and it'll be normal again and we can get back to life as we know it. But, you guys' advice and John Spur once again saying, this is how it is, historically with the real estate market, once it goes up, it doesn't go down, definitely not dramatically. So, it was definitely a blessing for us we started looking. You guys, you helped us substantially in that process. Thankfully, I have a really diligent wife who is, kind of seems like has a hobby as a real estate agent, because she just looked through MLS really, really hard. And we found, what was checked off all of our boxes and didn't uncheck any of the boxes. And we put in an offer and now we're going through the process of buying a house.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations.
With that being said, thanks so much for the update. On the show today, we have our president and CEO and designated broker for Indie Realty, Don Geisler. How you doing, boss?
I'm doing great. How you guys doing? Happy August. It's August.
Yeah, can you believe
Wow.
it's August already?
No.
We get an update on the building. We had the update from John on life as a home buyer. We get an update on what's going on at Indie Realty.
Yeah, our wonderful location there at Tanque Verde and Sabino Canyon area. We are going to get open prior to the expiration of summer.
Yay!
We'll be fully operating out of there. So the building's coming along wonderfully. It's beautiful. It's going to be a location to really be proud of. So
Nice.
Thanks for asking. It's fantastic.
Yeah, we did. In all honesty, we got a sneak peek, and we are so excited.
It's very exciting.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah, we're talking about that stuff, and we're happy to be there, happy to be the new building. The boss showed us some great facilities, so I hope people get to come around and take a look at our facility. When we have our open house, it'll be a good time to come and take a look. With that being said, and looking at stuff, Don, talking about buyers, and you were saying there's some different information you want to talk to the buyers about today.
Well, yeah, as always, we're kind of looking at the articles to see what's trending nationally and locally. And, one of the things that I'm seeing come up time after time right now is that buyers are canceling transactions at an extremely high rate. And, there's always a little hyperbole, and sometimes it's positioned as a record rate. Sometimes it's just a massive increase. But, the fact is, when we go through this type of market, we do see cancellations on existing escrows increase. And I think there's a lot of reasons to it. Number one, our market is shifting right as we speak right now. And there's a lot of uncertainty in the world. And so, by all means, sometimes buyers get involved in a transaction and the world gets a little weird out and the news gets a little weird and they decide they don't want to do such a thing,
right
now. But I think that we still have a pretty lean inventory situation going on, even though it's trying to grow a little bit. And sometimes buyers are on their third or fourth or fifth house that they've made an offer on, and they get in one and they might not be as in love with it as they were in property number one,
Right.
and they might be paying full price when they thought they could have got a little bit of a deal, and then sometimes they tend to go into the escrow thinking, well, I agreed to full price up front, and I might try to make a little bit of that up on the things that I asked for from a repair standpoint
Right.
or an upgrade standpoint along the way. So I just think that really it's important right now that we as professionals and know to set the right expectations for both our sellers and our buyers right now. And for sellers, just like always, we have to be priced right, be appropriate for the location that you're in, for the amenities that your home has, and know that the inspection process on the home and everything is just part of the process.
Right.
Nothing is personal. It's the part of the process that we as professionals probably dislike, more than anything. When we go in and we get those inspections, and their job is not to tell you how wonderful everything is; it's to alert you to any potential issues.
I know they say, the better that inspector does at his job, the least that everyone likes him. His job is to point out failures, and so it's a tough gig. For sure.
It is a very tough gig, and it's great and super important that I always say that we as the professionals, our job is to be objective, calm problem solvers in the middle of an emotional storm. So we have to allow both sets of clients, both principals, to go through their emotional process. The seller doesn't like to be told this might be an issue with the home, and the buyer doesn't like to hear this might be an issue, and our job is to let them go through their process and feel the emotions that they feel, and then get back to, hey, let's come up with some solutions and get the thing done. So,
yeah, I've been worried a little bit about the people that were under contract on new construction because of the fact that we tend to all buy at the top of our range, because no matter where you're at, if you're looking at a more expensive house than the last one, it probably is going to show better than the last house. And so as buyers have stretched a little bit, but concerned that they may not have the ability to qualify for that home that was under contract. But you are seeing some lenders offering to extend those interest rates right now. Have you seen anything come across your desk?
I haven't seen the new construction process and the results be statistically a whole lot different than resales, but there is a lot more room for things to happen along the way, because if we're looking at a 3-month escrow or an 8-month escrow or a 12-month build, there's just a lot more room for things to get sort of out of control, things to change that you aren't prepared for, whether it's interest rates or loan terms or pricing.
I think that's an opportunity for buyers that were competing with those particular homes a few months ago. I think it's maybe an opportunity for them to get back in there.
Yep.
So,
yeah, we're here with our designated broker and president and CEO of Indy Realty, Don Geisler. We're going to be headed to the break. We're going to be back at the show with more messages from our sponsor. We want to make sure you guys sit back and listen. We got some good information for you. Don is a great wealth of knowledge, and we can't wait to catch you on the other side. We'll see you in a little bit. Hi, guys. We're back. It's Ray Smith with Sandra Johnson and John McClain, and the designated broker of Indy Realty, Don Geisler. How you doing, Don?
Doing wonderful. Thanks again for having me. It's always a lot of fun.
We're happy. We're talking about the building that you're working on. You said it's going to be done when?
We are looking to open the brand new building before summer expires here. So let's just call it prior to the first day of fall.
Yeah.
that sounds good to us.
Yeah. I've been looking at some stuff and reading on some material and talking about the things you always talk about, hyperboles. I saw them again, so I want to bring them up to you again so you can remind people that these hyperboles are not really what the market is. And so it says from Realty.com, soaring home prices. It talked about new listings being increased and the medium sale prices increasing, but I like the fact that it says soaring home prices. We don't know what that means, so.
Yeah, soaring, I get amused by the words that we see, used that are made to generate a lot of clicks, and prices most certainly are up, and which makes affordability down a little bit. But, one of the interesting things about our real estate market is that interest rates are very manageable right now. So even when prices are up a little bit, when interest rates are under control, when you work with great lenders and have great resources that can offer you fantastic products, it controls your monthly payment a little bit, you know? So yeah, I just take for what it is when you read these articles and see soaring, you know, plunging, soaring, you know, I looked at an article, I was kind of laughing, and I won't pick on anybody, you know, in particular, but I saw an article where the word plunging was used like 7 times in the first 3 paragraphs. And, you know, in the wash, it came out that sales in a certain region were down 9%, you know, and there's still a lot of sales going on. If the worst we ever see is that we're down 9%, I think we'll all be, you know, very, very happy. So
does that mean we go from 10 offers on a house down to 1 offer, 2 offers?
That's exactly right. Or, you know, we're seeing it slow down a little bit with the velocity of offers, and I think buyers think that they have a little bit more time to think things through right now. When what we talked about before the break is this high rate of cancellation, and you know, sometimes buyers feel rushed. If there are 10 people bidding on a property, you cannot help but feel rushed, and then you're the winner and you're in escrow on a property, you get to take a breath and you're like, wow, that went really fast, and is this what I really wanted to do? But you know, and I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about with the buyers. I can't say this enough. We've been saying this for several years. Hang in there. You know, hang in the process. There's kind of, you know, I'm a very much what is meant to be will be. And every single time I've ever seen somebody lose out on a home that they loved, or a deal fall through or whatever, they end up in one that just ends up being a way better fit for them in the long run. So, you know, everything happens for a reason. I'm a very big believer in that, and it helps us out in real estate. But also when I talk about the buyers hanging in there, I can tell you that just giving up and saying, I'm going to go rent something instead of staying in the competition, staying in the game, finding that home you love, is not as easy as it sounds either. Correct. Because what we're seeing right now is the rental market is just as challenging as the sale market. Rents are up very significantly. There's a ton of competition for rental properties now too. So it's not worth giving up, because you could end up just as frustrated in the rental market. So, you know, hook up with an excellent professional like Ray and Sandra here. You know, get out there, find the house that you love, and let us help you through the process.
Well, I had a question for you, Don, just especially as I'm going through, me and my wife are both going through the process of just looking for houses, kind of having an eye on, you know, the movement of these houses, at least that we're looking at. And from, you know, my layman perspective, it looked like in a lot of ways the market has plateaued in a way, and is kind of making kind of like a small dip in favor of the buyers. Is that accurate, or is that just kind of just my perspective from the 15 or 20 houses that we were surveying for the past month?
No, I think what you're seeing is true, and it would be disingenuous for us to sit here and say things have not changed. I mean, you know, mortgage applications are down significantly, but we have a long way to go when in a market demand perspective until we get to flat or normal. I do think that buyers right now are, you know, the market is taking a little bit of a breath. There's a little bit more time, but for the most part, as a rule, we are not seeing houses that are priced right in a desirable area, et cetera. And there's always a lot of variables, you know, in every listing, but we are seeing them sell. And sell in a very appropriate and still quick amount of time. And, you know, we don't need 10 offers on a property. You know, that's exciting. It's a lucrative market for people involved. Is it really healthy? You know, probably not. You know, so we don't need 10, 20 offers on a property. We need one, you know, one that can get all the way through to the end. So, no, to answer the question, what you are seeing is accurate. The market is calmed a little bit, but really we had a long way to go to get what we would call a rational, healthy market. So we could stand to slowing down is not such an awful thing. I mean, we're real estate professionals. Sales are great. Fast market is awesome. So, I don't want to be public enemy number one here
Right.
saying this,
Uh-huh.
but it's okay to slow down a little bit, take a breath, and let things kind of calm down.
I'm going to move a little bit to the left and make a left turn here and talk about the company itself and how you are slowly but surely growing. Want to talk a little bit about that, about your company growing?
We are, of course, real estate companies thrive and are successful by recruiting great people, and it's awesome that we are in the process of bringing great people on board. So right now, we have 11 licensees. It's just going fantastically,
Nice.
and we have not, opened up our location yet. So we have our kind of founders club. I was thinking this morning, which you guys are the
I'm writing that down.
founding
Look at
founders.
a plaque on
Founders.
the wall.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we have a really cool platform going. I mean, in addition to the great physical location that we've been talking about,
Right.
We've put a company in place. We just have really great platforms. It's really good value for agents and professionals, and it's one that we are very confident that consumers, buyers, sellers, and agents alike are really going to enjoy. So we're thrilled with the process and looking forward to that grand opening for sure.
We're really happy about that. Sandra can tell you that all we do is talk about how lucky we are to be a part of this company and how much it has changed the way we do business and how we feel empowered to lead our little organization at the best we know how in our own way of doing it. We really truly like that. Wouldn't you say that, Sandra?
Oh, absolutely. We've been having the time of our life. So I've been doing this for 8 years, and I've never had so much fun as we've had since we switched over to Indy. And we're having a great time. I see this as a company that really is going to appeal to seasoned agents as well as newer agents who may not be doing high volume yet. They're going to get some great training, but it actually financially makes sense for both.
Yeah, and we built it very specifically that way, to be a great program for both brand new agents and seasoned agents. And, the word indie, it's a small little short word, but there's a whole lot behind it. I mean, indie is short for a big long word, independent.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of meaning behind that, and we really value that.
How
Well, as
can
we're getting
people
ready
reach you?
to go to break, I was going to say, yeah, let's get your name and number out there again.
Well, this is Don Geisler. You can always call me 520-869-2376. That's my direct line. I am the CEO and designated broker for Indy Realty.
Thank you, Don, for coming. We had a great time with you. I'm thinking of some cool things to say, some adjectives. I'll talk to you about offline.
All right. Got it.
Thank you, everyone. We'll be back with, we're talking with Michael Oakland, who's with Horizon Inspections. Talk a little bit about inspectors and what they do for us in the market. Thanks for tuning in. Next on our show, we have the certified master inspector, Michael Oakland of Horizon Inspections.
Hey, how you doing, Ray?
I'm doing great. He's been our inspector for about a year. I think we've been working
I
together.
think it's longer
Yeah,
than
it's been-
that.
yeah.
It's
Time's
been
fun
a
when
few
you're
years.
having
fun.
Yeah.
Man.
Time's fun when you having flies to the
Yeah. We thought you'd try to give the listeners a little bit insight on inspecting, what you're thinking about when you're doing inspections. But to begin with that, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Close to 50 years old. Been doing this for coming on a decade now. I guess you could say home inspection was kind of the accidental lottery ticket from having been a realtor and an appraiser,
Right.
and kind of stumbling into like, wait a second, the best parts of being a realtor and the best parts of being an appraiser are right here in home inspection. How could I have missed this my whole life? Yeah, so it's pretty dope.
I can't say that I feel that way. I do not want to know what is under people's sink. I do not want to know what lives under their house or in their attic. So I am grateful
Yeah.
that is exciting for you.
Yeah, I get it. I was thinking about it the other day how I didn't even realize that this was a job, but it's one of those kind of like little sweet spots. If you like find out about this, you just dive on in because
Yep.
it's
Yep.
something that you can really, really enjoy. Because I was I was going through that same mental process the other day where I was just like, man, at one time I saw myself being a real estate agent, but I see how hard Sandra and Ray work. so I don't see myself doing that. And then maybe an appraiser, but that seems like its own thing. But the inspection, and that's why I'm actually excited to do the inspection tomorrow with you to kind of see how you do it, because it seems like the fun part. Like you get to get into all the dark places and really see really what makes that place run.
When we're talking about home inspections and dealing with sellers, they're looking at ready to go on the market. And I was thinking, is there 2 or 3 things you would like to let them know or prepare them if they want to go on the market, things they should be looking out for?
Yeah, I think, well, first of all, sellers they've kind of been spoiled for a while, honestly. They've been holding at least 3 aces in the deck. A negotiation, I typically try to forewarn the buyer. Like, I'm going to find stuff at the house. It's just, houses that are brand new, I still find stuff.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, don't expect your seller to give away the farm. You got to be careful what you ask for.
Right.
So since negotiation isn't my lane, that's really, you're in Sandra's lane.
Mm-hmm.
I just try to make sure that the buyer's aware. The seller's probably got a strong position. So whatever we find, just consider it something to go on your honey-do list. And if they can somehow Jedi mind trick the seller into wanting to make fixes magically, then that's just gravy. If they can do that in this market, they're a Jedi.
We're getting there. No, we're
so you
getting
said
there.
I need to go back to Jedi school real quick. Okay.
Yeah. So with sellers, it's like, they probably shouldn't be there for the inspection. Because if they even overhear conversation of a defect, especially if it's a significant defect, that now creates a disclosure duty. And the seller wants to have plausible deniability. It's not in the seller's best interest to know all the stuff wrong with their house.
Right.
Yeah, but they're going to get that report. By contract, we're going to be sharing it. So eventually they're going to have to acknowledge what's going on.
I thought it's just pride and ownership. This is my home, and this guy's coming here and telling me what's wrong with my home. I've been living here for 15 years, and that's the thing that I worry about. So I like the sellers. We recommend that sellers don't be there for the inspection, only because I think of that thing. That pride of ownership is a tough thing to overcome sometimes. And
it's important, at least for good bedside manner as a home inspector, is to never have a conversation in front of the seller. So if a home inspector, whether it's me or another company, is not talking in front of the seller, that's an act of charity. We're trying to be courteous to the seller so that they realize we really don't want you to hear the conversation. It's entirely possible we could talk about 5 or 6 defects and they're only going to ask for one.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so do you really want to hear about all the other stuff? You really don't.
Yeah.
I advise my sellers don't read the report. I give it to them, but I say it's probably just going to be a frustration to you.
Absolutely.
So wait until you get the repair request and then read the things that are related to what they're asking for, because a lot of times, especially that seller that does take pride in ownership, they will look at that report and they'll want to fix things that they were not going to be asked for.
Yep.
And then when they get the actual repair request, in their mind, it's like, well, I've already fixed 5 other things, but the buyer didn't ask for that. So I wanted to ask you, when you're looking at a house, there are hundreds of things that you're looking at.
True.
And a lot of people have this conception of, did my house pass or fail? But that's not your job, is it?
No, homes don't pass or fail. The only person who has the right to decide if something passes or fails is the buyer.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen some homes that are immaculate. It's like a museum.
Mm-hmm.
And the buyer is picking out every little cosmetic, silly thing that's not even in our scope of service.
Mm-hmm.
But they're just really fastidious. And so what do? You just respect the client's, level of threshold of buy or don't buy.
Fastidious. I just have to catch you on that one.
Sorry.
That was
That's what
Sorry.
I was doing. I was ready to write it down. I was like, oh my, you go, Mike.
I got to go from a $10 word to like a $4 word. We'll try to dial it down.
I love it. No, that's great. Keep them coming, man. Yeah, I'm going to use that one talking to my wife later. She loves $1 million words.
In case you were wondering who we're talking to with those big words, that's Mike Oakland from Horizon Inspections. And we're having a good conversation with him today, talking about how we can help our buyers and the sellers during the inspection period.
Yeah.
Can you talk about a few of the things that you're looking at? Just kind of a general overview of the things that you're looking at in the home.
Yeah, there's 4 major umbrellas. I know we're going to be disciplined with time here, so we'll keep it tight. The 4 major umbrellas that an inspector's looking for are they're looking for major defects. That's the first one. Mm-hmm. Major defects, things that are going to cost a lot of money, and if they're just really broken, they just really need repaired. The second is minor defects that, if not corrected, will lead to a major defect. This could be like missing flashing. This could be something simple like the paint's completely gone and there's holes in the siding that need to be sealed up.
Right.
Things that affect insurability. This might be like old school homes with single strand aluminum wiring. Could be a fire hazard. Some insurance companies won't insure the house. You know, in modern homes, it's almost impossible to find those. And then the last one is things that are just not safe, things that are dangerous. So those are kind of the four major umbrellas. Cosmetic things like, you know, my new construction guy didn't get the floor trim just perfect, and it's like, come on, that's not our focus.
Right.
You know, I still say some of those things as a courtesy, but you know, it is what it is.
Yeah, there's a little bit different expectation, I think, when you have a brand new construction versus a resale home. And so I think the buyers can be a little bit pickier on cosmetics because it is brand new and no one's been in there yet.
Absolutely.
So there are some
Right.
things that should be done well. And so, but that it really is outside of the scope of what you as a home inspector would do. And that doesn't prevent them from asking for those repairs just because they're cosmetic.
Yeah, and I can say something. It might add a little bit of weight to the request, but they don't have to do it.
Yeah.
We're glad to be you're here. We can wait to continue our conversation with Mike Oakland of Horizon Inspections. He is a certified master inspector here in Tucson. We'll talk with him a little bit on the backside of our show and get some more information that he can be able to pass on to you so you can get a hold of him if you need to.
Hey, we are back on the air with Michael Oakland with Horizon Inspections. He has been the inspector that we recommend for over 2 years now, I believe.
I think 200 million years is
Yeah, between 200 million years and a year, that race
somewhere in
earlier.
that.
2 years. Let's go with 2 years. Let's go with 2 years.
Just make up a number. They're not going to know.
Yeah, no. And I actually have kind of a background in home inspection as well, just as a previous franchise owner.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
Interesting.
a lot of things
Okay.
you don't know.
Yeah, I know.
Well, we have a few shows to work that out. So yeah, I have probably attended a lot of home inspection training, just going to conferences and things like that, although I've never been a home inspector. But I do know that there are a lot of things that you look at and consider that you have to really have a good background in many things. So you're going to be looking at electrical, plumbing, roofing.
Right. Exactly.
There are a lot of things. So even a general contractor may not have the width of experience that you rely on to be able to provide that inspection report.
Yeah. There's a double-edged sword there. There's an upside and a downside. The upside is that we're kind of like we get trained in every field. We do see a little bit, almost like an internist in the medical field. They like 80% of cardiology, 80% of this, 80% of that, but they're not specialized in any of them. So we occupy this funny space where we think like an electrician, we think like an engineer, we think like a plumber, we think like a water droplet flowing over the roof. And in order to see how all the different specialty trades can step on each other's toes and not realize they're doing it.
Right.
So someone who's drilling holes, a general contractor drilling holes through engineered trusses doesn't know you're not supposed to do that. So we catch things where the different disciplines overlap with each other and sometimes in not so good ways.
Yeah, so you're like the generalist.
Yeah.
And you are going to refer that client out to see a specialist if they need one.
Yeah, I think a good inspector knows when to make the referral and when not to. Some things can be done by general contractors or handymen, and other things really ought to be done by a specialist. It's always kind of a warning sign to me when I hear a real estate agent. Of course, I've never heard you say this, Sandra, but like, well, I just refer everything to my handyman. That's a red flag.
Yeah.
That's someone who's not interested in protecting the client.
Right.
They're interested in protecting the transaction.
right.
That's a red flag.
Yeah.
I probably won't be hearing from them again.
You know, you probably won't. And one of the reasons that I like you is because you have a really good balance of not trying to, let's say, quote codes. So a lot of what you do are safety issues, which do overlap with code, but code is so specific during the
True.
time that the house is built and the city that you're in. So I like that when I get an inspection report, it doesn't misquote code, or it's not stepping into an area where you're really not qualified to go.
Yes, I'm very glad you brought that up. I get asked the question a lot, does this meet code?
Mm-hmm.
And it's really awkward to position to be in, because I have to say, well, how do you, I can't just say, well, I'm not a code inspector. That's the argumentative, kind of the blunt answer.
Mm-hmm.
But it's true. The softer answer is, well, a code inspector and a home inspector are doing different things. We read the same books. We
Mm-hmm.
memorize a lot of the same information. But I have accountability, but no authority. Now, they have
Right.
authority, but no accountability. Right? So we have very different
Perspectives.
ends of the day, but we have the same content we're reading. So I don't know whether or not the International Residential Code is being held to as a standard in a particular city or county. I can't keep track of that.
Mm-hmm.
But I do have a baseline that is a reasonable expectation of safety. But that's why you'll never see the word code in my reports, but you'll see like safety standards, child safety standards.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to meet the client's felt need without giving the false impression that I'm a code inspector.
Yeah, one of the other things that you do that, well, there are actually two things that I know you do that not everyone does. One is that you use infrared.
Oh yeah, that's fun.
Yeah, talk to us about it.
Okay, infrared is fun. It's not every home inspector who uses infrared is certified to do so or has the training to do so. So I want to say that it's a good tool. You don't have to technically be certified to use infrared. It's recommended to do so. You want to be able to interpret the thermal image that you're looking at. So it gives the advantage of being able to see what might be going on behind the surface of something, like a ceiling or a wall or even a floor.
Right.
So if I see a really unusual cold spot or warm spot at a ceiling or floor, I'm like, what's going on there? Why is it doing that? I've seen loose connections in electrical outlets that are hot enough that they could lead to an electrical fire. I've seen plumbing leaks hiding in a ceiling between two floors of a home. And it was so early that the cold spot was so small that you couldn't see it with the naked eye. A moisture meter wouldn't have picked it up, but the infrared is so sensitive. It caught the leak early.
And which areas are you looking at with that infrared technology?
Oh man, mostly ceilings, walls, low sections of walls, like a shared wall with a bathroom. If there's an accessible wall on the other side of a bathroom, I'll look at electrical connections inside electrical panel, underneath sinks, looking for hidden leaks. Sometimes really obvious visible leaks. But yeah, I'm looking for missing insulation in walls and ceilings. I mean, you can scan a large area with an infrared camera. It can do it fairly quickly.
The other thing that you do that not everyone does is that you actually go in and research appliances for recalls. That takes a lot of time and extra energy, and I think that's really great that you do that.
Yeah, sometimes as long as the data plate's accessible and legible, I can do that, but sometimes it isn't. But that's kind of an added value. I don't really advertise that I do that, but I do.
Oh, I just did that.
No,
for
that's
you.
fine. That's fine. That's fine. I'm kind of glad you said that, though, because I'd rather surprise the client with more than they expected.
Uh-huh.
Right.
So even if no one ever hears about it, even if I just do it and they don't know that I did it, and then something pops up, oh, hey, we got this dishwasher was on a fire recall safety issue. I mean, I can't even tell you how many times that's happened.
Yes.
But that doesn't usually show up until I'm doing the research later. So I couldn't tell them on site, oh, hey, this dishwasher's probably subject to fire recall. I can't recognize that just by looking at it.
Right.
But sometimes, computer databases and extra ancillary services, it comes in handy. Yeah.
And earlier you gave us a little tip on do's and don'ts for sellers when you're doing an inspection. What about a do's and don'ts for buyers, especially being that I'm be hanging out with you tomorrow? What they should do and don't in regards to while you're doing your inspection?
That's a good question. Thank you for asking.
You're welcome.
Probably the biggest don't is don't stand too close to me when I'm taking the cover off the electrical panel. Because if I'm going to get electrocuted, I don't want you to die with me.
Okay.
Just
Good-
let me go
good
by
deal.
myself.
That's very nice of you.
Yes.
Wow, Mike. Thank you
Always
so
looking out
much.
for the buyers.
If you're going to go on the roof, don't tell me you did.
Okay.
So
Yeah, don't tell me either. I don't want to know.
If my insurance agent finds out the client climbed up behind me on my ladder, they'll just fillet
Don't
me
worry.
alive.
Me and my wife will not be joining you on the roof.
The one thing we talked about, Mike, is when you have a client there and they're listening to you and they're watching you do the inspection. I remember you saying one time is that this inspection will take as long as you like. If you're with me, it's going to take maybe 3 or 4 hours. If you leave me alone, it might take me 1.5 to 2 hours. So it's up to the buyer whether or not they want to be right over you doing everything. You don't have a problem with them being over your shoulder either.
Not
You're
at
very
all.
kind about that.
No, I think it's more efficient for the process for them to hold their questions. But I specifically say to the client, you can ask me questions anytime. It's never an interruption. I used to say, feel free to interrupt, but people don't want to interrupt. I don't say that anymore. I just say, just ask a question. It's not an interruption.
Right.
I can literally memorize up to 20 different bookmarks visually throughout the property effortlessly and get right back to where I was. So if they pull me over to another room, I could just go right back to where I was without any effort.
Okay.
After 20 questions, it starts getting difficult.
Yeah.
What about ideally, what do you want them to do? Like, do you want them to be within 10 feet of you? Do you want them to be in the other room? Come, get with you afterwards? Like, what's the ideal situation for a buyer to do to make your job the most efficient?
Okay. The question took multiple turns there.
Yeah.
So, no, that's fine. No, this is good. It's good. I want the buyer to do whatever the buyer wants to do. At the end of the day, if a buyer leaves with questions, it's kind of like leaving a restaurant hungry. That's just a party foul.
Mm-hmm.
We're there for the client's benefit. So if the buyer walks away with questions or concerns and they haven't had their itch scratched,
Right.
then let's deal with it.
Right.
If however they're comfortable holding their questions toward the end, that's best.
Mm-hmm.
That's best for me. So I can follow a flow and be as detailed as possible. I take a ton of photos. I try to explain that process so they're not freaking out. Why is he taking so many pictures?
Mm-hmm.
It's how I do it. It's just how I do it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, probably take 2 to 3 times more pictures than I actually put in the report.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Like way more than you would think. If I put all of them in the report, the reports would be even longer than they already are.
Mm-hmm.
So no one wants to read a 167-page report.
Mm-mm.
No one
What
wants
about
to.
your
I don't.
summary? I like that you do the summary in the beginning with your red, yellow, and blue.
Yeah. I
Let
need
people,
to-
so you can look at that and
green.
find out what the problem is before you go and read the whole report.
Yeah, I intentionally changed the default color of my summary page from red. I mean, it looks like a curtain of blood if it's all red. It's just awful.
Right.
It's just psychologically kind of, whoa, it's shocking. I
Mm.
changed the default color to blue so that anything that I want it to stand out, but I don't want it to scare people.
Right.
The stuff that's hazardous, that is dangerous, I change it back to red because I want it to scare them.
Mhm.
It's important. This needs to be a priority.
Mm-hmm.
But most, some things that are courtesy comments, maintenance reports, recommended upgrades, those are flagged as green.
Right.
They're optional, but they're there. I don't want you to forget.
Mm.
So yeah.
Can you remind us how to get a hold of you and what kind of your background is, how long you've been doing this?
Yeah, I've been doing this full time since 2015, January. Feels like it's been longer than that, but gosh. Been doing, the best way to get a hold of me is probably by my work cell phone. Am I allowed to say the number?
Absolutely.
All
Please
right.
do.
So
As many times as you want.
520-330-9703. Again, 520-330-9703 is my phone number. You can text me there. You can email me at michael@horizoninspectionsllc.com. Smoke signals, carrier pigeon, we'll answer it whatever
Yeah.
is in your way. So,
You have a
We're pretty
website
easy.
as well?
yeah, horizoninspectionsllc.com.
And do you have sample reports there that people can
I do.
look at?
I do.
Get a good idea
Good.
of what it is that you do?
Full transparency. Everything's fully transparent. Everything. So
We want to thank you, Mike, for coming on the show. Really appreciate it. Thanks for taking time to listen to our show. We'd like to thank our amazing sponsors, Indie Realty, Arizona Sands Club, Rego Pest Prevention, Atomic Nutrition, Inspired Life Mortgage, and Sweet Little Chef. Thank you, guys, and we will see you next week.
Yeah.
My wife may not be here. She's going to be busy. I'm at the show all to myself.